call this Clark County Board of Education regular meeting to order on May 23rd at 6:30. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight for the meeting. In a second, I'm going to ask everyone to rise for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. We've had a lot of people in the community probably already knows. We had a young 18-year-old senior at high school involved in a accident Sunday night with a head-on collision. He's in critical condition at UK, so please keep him and his family in your prayers as we rise for the pledge. And let's take a moment of silence first. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item up is review of the agenda. Any questions, comments on the agenda? If not, ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Ms. Hall,
Second.
second by Mr. Dennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Next item, consider approval of minutes for the April 25th, 2023 regular meeting. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Next item, staff recognition of Ms. Eva Miller, Justice Elementary FRC Director, Ms. Christy Bush. Apologize if I pronounced the name incorrectly.
Great.
Was Eva.
Eva.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to read a resolution that has been given by Senator Ralph Alvarado by the Commonwealth of Kentucky to Ms. Eva Miller. This is a resolution honoring Ms. Eva Miller for her service to Clark County Public Schools and the community at large. I'm not going to read the whole resolution to you, but I would like to read one part. I could do it without crying. Ms. Eva Miller has continued the legacy of her father, Clyde Trisdale Jr., who was a leader in his community and follows the calling to lead someone in the right direction and make them aware of other opportunities to keep them on the right path. And that is everything that Ms. Eva stands for. Thank you.
Good job.
She loves all this attention.
Next item is recognition of Callaway and Kish for outstanding due diligence for helping students achieve their diplomas. Ms. Christy Bush.
Thank you again. It is my honor to talk about two staff members that we have at Phoenix Academy, Miss Tammy Callaway and Miss Patty Kish. These two ladies run what we call our recovery credit room at Phoenix. Typically, it is for high school students age that may or may not have achieved all of their credits for a specific year or years. And they take on this responsibility to help those students get exactly what they need in order to graduate. And as you all know, you were with us last Wednesday and there were 38-ish total. And they both had a really huge hand in helping those students recover what they need to do to be productive adults in their adult life. So if you'll please, Ms. Tammy Callaway, you'll come up first. And she has been at the Phoenix Academy for 23 years.
Wow.
All these people love attention. So, including you.
And Miss Patty Kish, she started with us at Conquerite and Biddle a long time ago. You'll please come up.
Next item is a special recognition of the individual of the district staff that we felt like needed to be recognized as well. Mr. Howard will be doing the honors.
Yes, sir. So a lot of the board members have talked and really want to give a shout out to this person. I didn't tell them this was coming, so here we go. We want to present this proudly to Miss Christy Bush for going above and beyond to serve the students of Clark County. She goes above and beyond. I know, she's going to cry. That's okay. As the Director of Pupil Personnel, for the last 4 months, she's been an interim principal of a building, providing stability and loving our kids and patting on our staff. And it's my pleasure to recognize her tonight in front of you, everybody watching. Ms. Christy Bush, congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone. Next item is public comments. There's no public comments. So move on to student learning and instructional services. First item is consider approval of coordinator of English language learners and community education position, Dr. Tammy Bush.
Hello.
Parrish, that's the first.
It's a long day.
Had Christy on the line.
Long day, long day. It's all good. So this position is actually going to be called Community Education and English as a New Language Lead. This is not really a new position. It's a position that we've taken from the Public Relations and Community Ed job that we dissolved and renamed, realigned it to district goals and missions, and our ESL population needs some more representation. So this position presented before you can either be classified or certified, and the preferentials are listed below. So really just a restructuring of this job.
Do we need to decide on classified or certified in our motion?
It can go either way with the state.
Okay. Any questions, comments? We have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Bennett,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Hall. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Next is consider approval of emergency teacher certification request.
Yes, so this is just a formality for the district. Thank goodness we haven't had this problem yet because we're filling positions quite well. But it's just a formality for us to have board approval should we need to use emergency certification for substitutes or teachers.
We had to have that last year.
We
too,
do
didn't we?
every year, yeah.
Any questions? Motion?
So moved. I will make that motion.
Okay. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Consider approval of a multi-tiered system of support specialist positions.
So again, this is aligning with the district goals and missions for putting in more MTSS processes, aligning with RTI. So this is not a new position either. These are positions that are being created from general allocated positions that were either non-renewed or restructured this year, so.
Any questions, comments? If not, I'll make a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dorsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Next is consider approval of Parquet Public Schools Comprehensive District Improvement Revised Plan 23-24. Ms. Kelly Pittman.
Previously, the CDIP, which is known as the Comprehensive District Improvement Plan, was brought before you all for approval. Upon submitting at the state level, we received feedback and suggestions based upon a grading rubric. So tonight, I present a revised plan to you based on this guidance. Based on their feedback, we made timelines more specific. We added staff for progress monitoring, and we're more detailed with a few of our objectives. However, there were no big change with our plans or anything with our big rocks, but I just wanted you all to see a revised plan.
Questions, comments? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Hall,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Dorsey. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Next is consider approval of Clark County Public Schools Certified Evaluation Plan 2023-24.
Okay. In January, a 50-50 committee was established. A 50-50 committee is composed of 50% teachers and 50% administrators to review our current certified evaluation plan, which is known as the CEP. By law, we are required to update this annually. As a committee, the plan received stakeholder input through teachers and administrators through our 50-50 committee. And based on that input, we have made a few changes that is reflected from the old plan into the new plan. We have updated some language. Our non-tenured, we changed from a peer observation for one of the cycles to a mini observation. And then the observation model for tenured staff, we changed 2 cycles. We just flipped the order of those cycles. Other than that, no major changes were made from the previous CEP to the current. There are certain guidelines that we have to adhere to by the state. We have a little bit of leniency as we transition to make it Clark County's own plan, but there are certain guidelines that we have to adhere to. And then a big thing was that we made it digital so that we can have a digital format of the handbook.
Questions, comments?
Fairly nicely put together
Yes.
document. So you can tell the hard work.
This be made public?
Yes.
Okay. On our website? Okay.
Yes, we will. And then we will have training moving forwards starting in July. All administrators receive certified evaluation plan training, and then that gets dispersed onto our certified staff within the buildings by the administrators, so that everyone's made aware of the plan.
And I just want to give a big shout out to the team, teachers, administrators, Ms. Fitton and her staff. This was a long process. I know you're seeing the finality of it, but a lot of time and work and effort went in. I just want to say thank you guys.
And Ms. Fitton, will this be an easier process for the teachers? For the
It's a more streamlined approach based on our vision for the district. Yes.
I just know I've had some friends who are teachers just talk about how cumbersome their evaluations
Yes,
can be.
and we have streamlined that so that some of the paperwork that's involved for some of the evidence, we've combined that together, so it's not as much paperwork leading into an observation. That was one of the things mentioned in our committee meetings.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. So, well, I make a motion to approve if no one else has questions.
Motion by Ms. Hall, any second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bennett, all in favor? Passes 4-0. Next item, consider approval of Clark County Public Schools Multi-Tiered System of Support Handbook 23-24.
At this time, I'm going to introduce Miss Allison Nelson. Allison Nelson came on board in January, roughly, to be a lead in revamping our MTSS plan, and I'm going to turn it over to her to explain some of the things that occurred during our meeting session.
Yeah, good evening. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. This model is a multi-level prevention model that supports student achievement as well as social, emotional, behavioral competencies. Through MTSS, this is achieved through the integration of core instruction, assessment, and intervention. So there are several different components to this type of structure. In recent years, our state Department of Education adopted an MTSS model. So when we came together as a committee and we looked at our existing documents, we realized very quickly that we needed to update and revamp. Documents, I think, are the last time our intervention systems were looked at was 2016, I believe. So we updated our handbook to reflect the MTSS model. In our committee, we had varied disciplines that were represented across varied grade levels. We took time, number one, to review our state resources. So you're going to see some items on the screen here that reference that structure that our state has adopted. We also had committee members that attended a training with our regional co-op where we got some intensive training in KY MTSS specifically. We also looked at documents from the state level as well as some other districts to kind of help us formulate a plan. We divided into subcommittees. We drafted a version of this document, and we have been through a very rigorous review process. So we have come back to the table several times and updated the information. We have sought input from administrators, from parents, from teachers. So we've been really intentional about getting input from all of the stakeholders as we develop this. And our hope is that this really helps us to address comprehensive needs for all students.
Very well put together. Assuming this will be public as well.
Yes.
One of the things I really love is all the additional resources at the end of all the hyperlinks that's there for people that, whoever wants to go out and know more about it. So very well put together.
And I think with, as a parent, being able to look at that and understand, when my child was in elementary school, I had a hard time understanding the tier system. This is really great and easy to read and look at. And so it is excellent work.
Great. Yeah, that's our hope, is that the resources help for everybody to have a better understanding of the system and how students may receive different levels of services and layered levels of services as they move through the tiered structure. So.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hall, in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Next is consider approval of Clark County Public Schools Portrait of a Learner, 23-24.
You'll notice a lot of things that we're discussing tonight is very much a team approach. It does take a strong team working together to fulfill a lot of these needs. So at this time, I want to introduce another person on our academic team, Ms. Allison Hill, and she will go over the structure of the Portrait of a Learner.
We are excited to present the final draft of Clark County's Portrait of a Learner. Simply put, a Portrait of a Learner is an agreed upon set of school or district level aspirations for what every learner will know and be able to do when they leave school. Now, more than ever, learning experiences must not be just about mastering challenging academic content. They must also be more intentional about fostering communication, collaboration, adaptability, and other skills our students need to thrive. The Kentucky Board of Education has established a subcommittee to model the Portrait of a Learner process at the state level. This initiative is making its way statewide. It gives school leaders and teachers the framework to design instruction in a way that promotes real-world competencies and job readiness. Through Clark County's creation process, we have been able to receive input from various stakeholders such as community members, teachers, administrators, students, and parents through various community events and surveys. Moving forward into next year, the Deeper Learning and Portrait of a Learner team will begin focusing on what each of these competencies will look like at each grade level. This progression in skills is much like what happens as little ones progress from T-ball to coach pitch baseball to varsity level and beyond. The skill doesn't change, kids just get better at it. We are excited to be on a journey toward deeper learning that better meets the needs of the whole learner, knowledge, skills, and dispositions.
So I was really excited with this after reviewing it last week, and I had a person in community send me a video, won't mention who or the video, but it was really about opening up our schools' learning so that our parents know what they're learning, what they're supposed to learn, and they can, and there's something tangible to it. Because I mean my kids are out of school, but I don't know how many times we picked them up. What'd you learn today? Nothing. Nothing. But they did. But it didn't resonate, right? So, but if you ask the same kid that maybe just use Sunday school as examples, like, what did you learn in Sunday school today? They tell you this whole story. That's what we want to get to. So, I'm glad we are kind of in the lead and leading that in Kentucky. So, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
So with each trade level, is that going to be like at each school, or is it, how are you all going to determine what that looks like?
So we will have a team developed that kind of looks at each of the competencies, and that team will have representation from all different grade levels. So we'll kind of outline an assessment system that showcases what that would look. What does it mean to be an effective communicator in kindergarten as well as a senior in high school? So kind of taking that and digging deeper on what that's going to look like at each grade.
Great. So we're just looking for approval to continue the process.
Yes.
I would happily make that motion. I think this is a great, yeah.
We have a motion by Mr. Dorsey. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Yeah, I love the public access of it, like all the CDP.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's something that, yeah.
Next item is to acknowledge the Clark County Public Schools iReady Update 23-24. Sorry.
Okay. Earlier this year, we discussed iReady and the purpose that will serve in our district, and iReady is our universal screener. It's an online program for reading and math that's going to help teachers determine student needs, personalize their learning, and monitor progress throughout the school year. The screener has been administered 3 times throughout the year. We did it in August, then again in around December, around the winter time, and then again in the spring. So today I bring before you the growth that we're seeing as a district. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights. On the screen where it says the district growth key, it's showing in green, which means students are on or above grade level. In the yellow, students are 1 grade level below, and the red, 2 or more grade levels below. So on the next slide, you will see the district growth for reading, and this is comparing from window 1 to window 3. And you can see that we're making gains at our on or above grade level. We were looking at 27%, and that was increased to 46% for reading. And this is district-wide, and we tested from kindergarten up through 10th grade. So this is just looking at combining all of that information. If you will go further on each slide, and I won't, read every single slide that you have before you, but it breaks it down by grade level so that you can see the actual growth, and you will notice that some grade levels show more growth than others, but across the board, we saw significant gains in growth with regards to reading. The same is true for math. If you will go through several more slides and get to the math. As a district, again, we were making gains, moving from 18% at or above grade level in August to 42% in March or the April window. And again, further, it breaks it down for every single grade level. So as a celebration, yes, all grade levels were able to increase the amount of students performing on or above grade level and close the gap on students performing under grade level. Even though we are making significant gains, we're still not where we need to be, and we know we still have a lot of work ahead of us. But the celebration is that we are making gains towards proficiency, but at the same time, we know we have work ahead. So with that being said, where do we go from here, knowing that we do have more work ahead of us? This year and moving into next year, our focus is on inspiring a shared vision as we're connecting Clark County Public Schools with one vision. As a district, we have many things to focus on, but we must remain grounded and rooted in our foundations for high-quality Tier 1 instruction. So our 5 academic foundations include continuous development, congruence, student engagement, differentiation, and monitoring. And some members from our team are going to focus on each one to give you a little bit more information. So first, we'll look at continuous development.
In Clark County, we are constantly striving to improve the educational experience for all students. One area of focus of our vision is continuous development. Through that focus, we will work to provide quality, research-based professional development opportunities for all teachers with the goal of providing rich, deep learning experiences for all students at all levels. Additionally, we will provide extra support to our new teachers to ensure success. The following 2 slides outline how we plan to roll out that professional development for all staff and our new teachers.
Okay, the next area is congruence. To ensure congruence in Clark County, we have narrowed our focus to these 5 areas. Teachers at all levels are creating learning targets for each standard to build the teacher's understanding of the content. Standards maps for ELA and math are being revised to shift from a curriculum focus to a standards focus. The elementary leadership team worked to create and revise common assessments this year. Secondary will begin that work during the upcoming school year. Phonics data from iReady, along with a survey that was sent to elementary staff, confirmed the need for a systematic lesson structure for phonics. Our plan to fulfill this need is for K-4 teachers to be Orton Gillingham trained, along with 2 teachers from Baker, RDC, and GRC. The Orton Gillingham approach will ensure that the reading foundational standards are being taught following a scope and sequence while using a multisensory approach.
Is that the program that Concrete presented to us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about the writing plan that was on that slide. This fall, we put out a draft for grades kindergarten through 8th grade. And this writing plan kind of outlined some structures and vocabulary that could be cohesive across the grade levels. So our teachers were kind of encouraged at the start of the new year to start implementing some of that vocabulary and structures just to be able to become aligned in terms of what we're teaching our students with writing. So as we move into next school year, we're excited to be able to kind of finalize that plan and really be all in on writing and being common in the vocabulary and structures that we're using with our students. And then I'm also going to talk about student engagement. So student engagement is the next component for reaching high-quality Tier 1 instruction. In order for students to be engaged, it's crucial for teachers to consider how they are designing lessons. So one of our bubbles up here is about an effective lesson design. We surveyed teachers and sought guidance from outside sources to determine what were some of the key components that every lesson should include. Some of those included an effective hook to really get students tied into the lesson, talking about learning targets that are perfectly aligned with our standards, new content, keeping students engaged through checks for understanding, which kind of goes into Kagan. So Kagan is an initiative that we started this year in Clark County. We are kind of in phase 1. So throughout the year, teacher leaders and administrators have undergone 4 of 5 days of Kagan training, and we've learned all different strategies and structures for students to be able to be engaged in what they're learning. So that's kind of another key component of student engagement. Moving into next year, all teachers will be trained through Kagan, representing. Got his Kagan pen.
You're my Kagan pen. I've been trained also, so just for the record.
So we're excited to be able to roll that out for all teachers next year. Those that underwent phase 1 this year will become Kagan coaches, so we will be able to help guide some of the teachers as they're rolling out Kagan structures in the coming year. And of course, attendance is super important for student engagement. If students aren't there to learn, they're going to miss out on all the fun. So we're excited.
I'm going to talk very briefly about differentiation. Differentiation is just big fancy teacher language for meeting students where they are based on their needs, interests, and abilities. So it's planning and designing instruction and systems to help meet kids that have those needs. So part of that is specially designed instruction, which happens in the classroom. Part of it is station teaching, which is within the classroom, working with smaller groups of students that they call stations and station teaching. Intentional scheduling, so looking at the needs individually of those students and intentionally placing them where it's going to be best fit, where they can get their needs met. And then the last bubble in there is just gifted and talented, which is a separate piece of differentiation, really working towards that Tier 1 instruction to meet the needs of all of your outliers, really is where differentiation teachers do it every day in the classroom to meet the needs of kids, but this is one of the 5 focuses, is differentiating based on student needs, interests, and abilities.
We're super excited about the work that's already started this year. While we have started the work, it's still going to be a long road ahead. We have started the work now, but we are going to continue as we move forwards in making sure that we have systems in place across the district. The last slide is on monitoring. As we all know, what matters gets monitored. So we have a monitoring structure in place. When we speak about the district walkthrough tool, we'll have a 3-phased approach where we will administer school and district walkthroughs. We will then analyze that walkthrough data, and then we will act based upon that data. Whatever the data is telling us, that's how we will act and adjust accordingly. So regardless of our role in the district, it's important to know that we all work together, we're all connected, and we all play a part in our students' success. So it's important that we're all working together, regardless of the roles that you see up there, what building or what's the staff role that you serve in. We all have to work together to ensure student success in our district.
I love that last slide. We ought to brand that, actually.
Yep. That's why we're here. North Star.
So it's just an acknowledgement.
Just
so
acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work on all
Yeah.
of that. That is just
It's
a,
very much a team approach.
yes.
Without the team, it wouldn't be happening. So I want to make sure I say that.
Right, well, I should have said, I meant
Yes,
the whole
yes.
team, for sure, so, yeah. It's a real well unexplained set of slides.
Right, on to the next category of student support services. First item is consider approval for the purchase of the BAR Professional Development Curriculum Program for George Rogers Carter High School and Robert E. Campbell Junior High. Mr. Jamie King.
Good evening. Thanks for letting us talk a little bit about the BAR curriculum this evening. We took a group of teachers, administrators, counselors, 3 separate occasions to visit Johnson Central High School, where they have implemented this curriculum over the course of the last 8 years. And we also had a meeting with Woodford County, who had just started it this year, so we got to see both ends of the spectrum there. I'm just going to give a little brief overview of BAR, and then Ms. Bonfim will talk about what it's going to look like, at the plans that if you do get this, that we do at GRC next year, and then a couple of real excited teachers that went on the visit and can't wait to implement this for us. But BAR is acronym for Building Assets, Reducing Risk. It's a comprehensive approach that really is just centered around building relationships. Meets the needs of all students with that 2-prong approach. One, creating those positive intentional relationships, which is also staff to staff, staff to student, and then also student to student. And then it also uses real-time data to guide the decisions that are made. And that data, the dashboard comes with this. It's intentional conversations. It just creates a structure that we've been lacking at the high school. Looks at real-time academic data, behavior data, and also attendance data. It is not an academic program, but every school across BAR that has implemented this, they have seen academic growth, and they've also saw a reduction in dropouts. 2 of the things that I like really good about it is, it's a teamed approach. So these students are on teams and they get that adult mentorship, somebody they connect with. And then also, we make sure that we try to provide something for every student extracurricular, to where it would be, whether it's a club or a program or a team or something, it just gives every student an opportunity to be maybe around like-minded folks and a sense of belonging. We have an awful lot that we offer at GRC, but if we happen to have some students that want something else, well, then we'll create that too. So this time we'll talk about what it's going to look like.
Okay. So what it will look like at GRC is our 9th graders will be grouped into 4 different teams based on their content area: math, science, social studies, and ELA. The teacher team will meet throughout the week to monitor student progress, identify strengths, and to consider ways to support and challenge all of those students. So each week, as they travel, the way that the lessons work is that one teacher will be responsible for a lesson, And then every week, they will only do a lesson one time a month, but all of our students will get it 4 times a month. As far as the lesson goes. So one time a week, all of the teachers will be committed to an I-time lesson, which we've talked about. The goal of that is to strengthen, again, what Mr. Keene had said, the student to student, staff to student, and then just to build that classroom community. Some of the topics that will be discussed will be building community, some stress management, bullying, and substance use awareness during this time. So the main thing too is the goal for this is to help do 5 different things, and we've said to reduce academic failures. One thing I love about this program is that every 9th grader will be connected to an adult and connected to something that they are passionate about. And I love that. Every week that the team comes together and you discuss each student, you talk about, again, their academics, behavior, social, emotional. There's counselors that come to the table as well to discuss what's best for each student there. Also, it hopes to reduce alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use. It reduces, again, the disciplinary incidents that we see. It will improve attendance, and then again, increase that average number of assets among our 9th grade students. So, with that being said, I'll let the teachers talk about our visit to Johnson Central.
I don't know what they're about to say either.
Let's see, I'm Katie Griffith. I've taught at GRC for all 8 years that I've been in Clark County. And the thing about this program is I've been through I-time, connections, flight time, whatever you want to call it. I've been through it all. And this program has it, and it's structured to where the teachers can be successful in implementing it to the kids. And I think that's something that's been missed at GRC. Whenever we went into the classroom, the kids were not scared to stand up and say, oh yeah, I agree with that, or anything. Like, there was no fear of stepping out and saying something in front of the kids, and that's just not seen at the high school level. So that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Hi, I'm Hagen Wells. This is my first year teaching, and I teach English out at the high school. I think what I really liked about it was being able to work across content areas, because kids have different interests, and being able to see, like, well, they don't engage in my lesson, but they engage in a math lesson, and it helps you understand better what's going on with the students, not only academically, but personally as well. In the bar meetings that, where all of the content teachers come together, it really emphasizes not just, okay, what are their grades, what are they missing, what behavior issues do they have. It also emphasizes this is what's going on in their life. Maybe they've lost a loved one. Maybe they've gone through some sort of trauma, and they've confided that in one teacher, and they can share that amongst the team, and so that the whole team has a better idea of how to best meet that student's needs. So I think that the meeting aspect of it is really well to really work together, not just with teachers, but with administrators as well, to best figure out the most advantageous plan of action for our students. But it also helps us connect with our students a lot more. Those lessons that go over those social emotional learning aspects really seem very engaging and organic, and the students were genuinely excited for it. And it also, I think, presents us an opportunity to not just help our community build better students, but also build better people.
So it was mentioned that they'll be divided up into 4 groups. How will that be determined? And what was those 4 groups again? It was English?
English, math, science, and social studies.
Okay. So these are 9th graders that come in. How would they be determined? How will it be determined which group they're in? Will it be based on scores? Will it be based on something that they pick, or what?
No. We may be grouping some freshmen will come to us already with an Algebra 1 credit.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be in a geometry together class as freshmen, or a lot of other freshmen will be in Algebra 1, Algebra 2 class. And then also maybe in a biology class. So that would be the only type of groupings there, that if you're in, Algebra 2 or biology instead of Algebra 1 or, interdisciplinary science, those would be grouped. But other than that, it's just homogeneous grouping.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea, I mean, I love the, after
Mhm.
reviewing this, I love the fact of ninth graders. And again, now this is also, after reviewing it last week, we've included the middle school,
Mhm.
7th grade too, in the proposal. So, because there's such a transition for 7th and ninth graders. And the question I have is, what happens when they go 10th grade?
Mhm. I asked that question in the first meeting because it
Yeah.
seemed like it would be something that would go.
Yeah.
But it builds structures to where you're giving them the tools as ninth graders to where they make better decisions as 10th graders. So they have seen that. Now, again, I'm real excited about 4 years down the road once everybody in our building goes through this. Plus, we would have an advantage of 7th and 8th graders having been exposed to some of this coming in as ninth graders, so that transition will be even less. So it's character building, good decision making. So as you are rewarded and you talk about those things and you do these lessons, it just re-emphasizes doing the right thing, and then they see that growth each year to where it stays with them when they're a sophomore, junior, and senior. Bless you.
So does this fit in the iReady? I know iReady's district-wide. So is this would be like a subset in the iReady, or is it totally separate?
Totally separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that I will say that I like about this is, you know, you mentioned after they leave their freshman year. So one thing is that building relationships with adults. So as we meet each week and we learn and we understand about our ninth graders, their needs and what they're going through, whatever, those are always conversations that when we meet as a department or when we meet as a PLC to talk about, you know, even as sophomores, juniors, and seniors, to say, these are some things that this child has experienced, and we can always, you know, our counselors will be involved in that process as well to make sure that those students still receive that support at the sophomore, junior, and senior level.
So I'm going to be a little selfish. The children, they're not children, the young men and women who are now like going to be juniors, seniors, they're going to miss out on this. Is there any way to like, is there anything that can be done since they won't have flight time next year? You know, what are your plans for these upperclassmen who, you know, they've missed out on a lot, and of course I am being selfish. Everybody knows, you know, my child will be a junior. But there's a whole class, and so is there anything when we purchase this is a pretty big investment, is there anything we can do to, you know, somehow have the whole school benefit from it, since they've missed out on so much because of COVID? I mean, this group, this age, you know, they were in junior high when COVID started, and so it's a wonderful program. I think it's great, and all. What are we missing? Are these kids going to miss out on something? Our juniors and seniors is my question.
I hope not, and I could just answer it if I were there, in which I won't be, but so it could look differently from somebody else. But we left enough opportunities in our schedule to where we could go to an alternate schedule from time to time. The problem that we've had with the things that Ms. Griffith mentioned with I-Time connections is not having something to provide our teachers to do during that time.
Right.
This does, so I don't know why we couldn't take some of the lessons and at least once a week go into a alternate schedule for one day, and all of our students benefit from this because it's only going to benefit our entire school. So
Right.
yeah, we
Absolutely.
wouldn't want to withhold that. So if it were me, yes, we would be able to do it, and I still think I'll be involved somewhat. So that would be my suggestion is we can't forget about sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So
Right.
if this is good for our freshmen, it's also good for those kids too. How can we make it work? And
Right.
you might lose a little instruction time here and there, but to me, what you're going to gain, relationship building, offsets what little bit of instruction time you might miss.
Right. I agree. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
So was there when you went to the other schools, was there like a before and after, like a baseline, and then how did they measure the success of the program?
Well, with Johnson Central, they've been doing it 8 years, and then staff had come and gone a little bit, but it was just it was clockwork. I mean, it went really nice. I can't wait to see GRC get to that level with it. So all they can say is, with the data, is they've shown improved academics, less course failures, so kids getting more credits. Attendance has grown those 8 years. that's the type of data that they, because I don't know about the baseline, but each year it continues to grow.
Increased.
And then in Woodford County, it was just their first year. They have seen growth, and especially in the amount of discipline referrals.
In my understanding, this is a 3-year process with
Mhm.
BAR, and then at the 4th year, you're basically just running with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just running with it, so, okay.
Spread your wings.
Yeah.
And they do have a really good, I think it's an initial 2-day training, in hopes that this is something that we can offer. Already working on our schedule for next year. We've already got teams ready to roll and teachers ready. They're excited. We didn't require teachers to do this. We took some, word spread, and had people volunteering that want to be a part of this. And so for this to be implemented with fidelity, it's got to be by a group of teachers that want to see this. And we've got a great group that's ready.
I'm not sure who to direct this question to, but in the proposal, it's a 3-year cost. Is that all up front, or do we pay per year?
So it's my understanding of talking to Ms. Ellis today is you would still pay per year.
Okay.
But the first year, we would use ESSER funds.
Yep.
So we wouldn't have to, and then if we would commit to it, because I do agree with the staff. You know, we have to be intentional with bullying, and we have to be intentional with drug use. And that's not a Clark County issue, that is a world issue. And it really was concerning when we didn't have structures in place and we were waiting on bad things to happen. And I think the staff feel that in the building. So for us, we would build it in the budget from that point on, and I would make sure, working with our teams, that it was covered.
So the first year would be paid by ESSER funds, and then
Correct.
after that, everything would be built into the budget?
Correct.
Okay.
That was one of the things that they had also mentioned too, and he touched on it, is it just gives us an opportunity to be more proactive instead of reactive, as sometimes we are. And so getting it on the front end.
No, I think it's great. It's a tough transition for kids in 7th and 9th, and I like the program after reviewing it.
So it would be 7th grade and then 9th grade, like everyone move forward. They start in 7th grade, so once they transition from Baker. And then 8th grade, there's the building, it's not really anything going on, and then 9th grade, you kind of revisit. Is that, okay. From that new transition?
Yes.
And in my conversation with Mr. Kincaid is they would then try to transition from 7th to 8th. So they would build it up so there's a constant level of support. But he was kind of brought on a little bit later. But I thought it was, we have a need for it. And so it's nice to be able to provide the structures.
I mean, by the time they get to the high school, they could have almost 2 years if the junior does it for, both grades.
Correct.
I was excited when I saw Campbell included on there. It just helps with our vertical discussions and alignment to see that these kids are already going to be exposed to some things that we're not supposed to do in the 9th grade too.
Now, it wouldn't be different from the middle school to the high school, would it? I mean, it'd be structured the same way.
Correct.
Okay. So they wouldn't have a totally different experience when they get to the high school.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
I hope they would have totally different lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
wouldn't want them to repeat
Right.
on that, but I think it
And
would
age
be.
appropriate.
Yeah, age-appropriate lessons, and what we witnessed, just to hear student-to-student conversations and just bragging on each other and picking, and even the self-discussion, the lesson that we talked about, it started out with, what does it mean when you hear sometimes you're your own worst critic? And then just having kids talk what that means, and then the part of that exercise was making a list of 5 things, and one was something that you're really good at. Well, sometimes it's hard to brag on yourself, but it got kids really to open, you know what, I am good at some things. So, and then that played off of a prior lesson. So it really scaffolds and really gets their self-esteem built up and some confidence.
Do you think that, or maybe observe, like at-risk students, are they captured more? Or do you understand what I'm not asking it the right way. Like they're identified better, maybe more efficiently, that teachers can, okay, gotcha.
And that comes a lot in their PLC meetings. So this team of 4 teachers will be their own PLC. And they talk about these kids. They lead off the meetings talking about some good things that's going on with kids. And then they'll talk about some things that maybe they see. I witnessed a conversation. Has anybody seen a difference in Sally. And then so, oh yeah, well, she came and talked to me, so there was a little problem. Well, she was a swimmer, swim season ended. Now that sense of belonging, so they're in the process for Sally finding something else for her to get involved in. So it was just great conversation, and it really individualized the centers on the student.
I think for our district vision, this is not something separate. It fits right in with Ms. Nelson's presentation on multi-tiers of supports. And the beautiful thing is, if you catch more kids and support them at that general level, then your resources aren't overwhelmed and not everyone's needing to go to the counselor every day, right? Which is the purpose and kind of being intentional with it. So we just feel like it helps support kind of initiatives we're already working on.
And it's so important at that freshman level because it is such an indicator of future success or failure. So catch them really quick and get them on the right path from day one. Will be even easier than having to have a little exposure to it at the middle school.
Yeah.
And I know we're at the end of our school year. This is approved tonight. Will this be implemented in the fall?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if this gets approved, we will set up, I think the training session will be in June, and then it will be ready to roll in August.
Cool. Any questions?
No, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's beautiful. I'm just jealous. That's all.
Anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the
I'll
BAR professional development program curriculum.
For the high school and Campbell?
And Campbell, yes.
Okay. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you all.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. My Kagan partner, we'll do some training together.
Next up is a preschool construction update from Mr. Paul Christie.
Well, I'm the first one to stand up here tonight and not talk about student learning and educational services, but I'm going to tell you one thing. When you finish this state-of-the-art building, I promise you, I know this preschool staff, you're going to see student success when it's done. I can promise you that. I've got a few pictures, and when I took these pictures last week, and then I went out there today again, look at it, you wouldn't even recognize it from last week. What you're looking at here is the road as you come in. This is going to be the traffic loop around the front, or to the right side of the building. This will be the building pad over here. You can go to the next page. That's just kind of a picture of the building pad back in there. That's when they were stripping some topsoil. That's your actual building pad right there. Off to the left side over here is another parking lot. Staff parking lot will be parking down the front side, and then there's parking on the right side also.
Are they done dynamite?
Have they what?
Are they done dynamite?
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just started. I'm already asking questions. Sorry.
Yeah, you can ask all the questions you want. There you're looking at the entrance, which will be, as you all have it planned, it's going to be your parent entrance and drop off coming off the Frontier Way up along the front side of the building. He'll drive, will come up kind of where the rock is, and circles around where you see the trucks, the dump trucks sitting there. He'll circle back around in front of the building for student drop off.
Mm-hmm.
That's very roughly the entryway off of Martin Luther King. It looks much better now. That's just a picture standing on the front left corner, looking at where the parking lot will be, and then looking back towards the building pad where the building have to be looking at the front of the building standing there. Just when I talk about the blasting, this is why. That on this particular area, you got about an inch of topsoil, and then you got rock for about 5 or 6 feet, so there's a lot of blasting. That's what it looked like after it started moving. I think that's probably about all the pictures. Well, the first, after they removed all the topsoil, and that's one good thing, you're going to have plenty of topsoil, so I think everything's going to balance out. You're not going to be hauling anything out or in to the site there. We blasted for about 10 days. That was about 700 holes of dynamite. I think Mr. Howard and Mr. Watkins got to experience some of that out there. It seemed pretty eventful at the time. It moved a lot of dirt, loosened. There was rock, about probably a 4 to 5 foot stretch of rock in there, down about 4 or 5 feet. The building pad is completed now. It's completed now completely. Frederick and May, your earthwork guys, have done a phenomenal job, and you're in a really good spot right now. You're through the dirt part and with no problems. And that can be one area that can get you real quick and cost you a lot of money, but you're through that with no problems at all. They're continuing on the site work today they were on the parking lots and around the building, just cleaning it up. Landmark delivered today, they started delivering the water line, the main water line, and we started cutting across Frontier Way today, so you may get, Mr. Howard, you may get some calls on that, because we just cut about a 3-foot section out of Frontier Way all the way across today. There'll be another one when we start the sewer, because most of the main hookups are over on the opposite side from where the building is, over in the subdivision there. Tomorrow, hopefully, well, if the drill came in this evening, hopefully tomorrow we're going to start drilling holes for the casings that go down. These are vertical columns of concrete that will go anywhere from 5 feet to 15 feet deep.
Drill piers.
They're like piers, yeah, all around. There's about 68 of them to be drilled. And there'll be reinforced concrete that goes down in the ground below the foundation. So they're ready to start that, just waiting on the drill to get in. The tree line was cleared. This is one where I think you'd had cameras designed to go on the back of Strode. It's going to show the front side of the building for security. And of course that tree line was in the way. When we looked at the plans, the plan was, I think that was one of the things that may have gotten cut, was they were just going to go in and clear out the underbrush, and they were going to leave any trees that were 4 inches in diameter or bigger, which was virtually every one of them. So I met with Mr. Howard and Mr. Watkins, and then I think Donald and Billy was there, and we had Todd from Frederick and May, and they agreed to take their equipment and clear all that tree line out, and they put it in piles. And then working with Billy, and we worked with the fire department, got a burn permit, so we're going to be able to burn all that out there. And we was able to get that done at no cost to you. So we saved the change over there, so that was a big savings. If the district had come in and clear that out themselves, that's a pretty big savings. The next thing, just kind of in general, then I'll answer any questions you might have. Rain days, up to this point, in 3 months of construction, we've got about 12 rain days. So been very fortunate on that, been able to work almost consistently. And we got a construction meeting that Mr. Watkins, you may want to attend on Thursday at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. We've got a full construction meeting. All the contractors will be there for that one. So,
Will that be on site out there?
it's on site, yeah. We've got the trailer out there now. They don't have the water hooked up to it yet, but we've got a trailer on site. So, and that's where all the meetings will go from now on out there. Any other questions?
We're taking all that rock and filling it in behind RDC.
Well, what they did, I know brevity, but
No. This is exciting
I'm
stuff.
familiar with that term. But, they went down when they stripped the topsoil. They got it in 3 different piles out there. Then they went on down and they stripped all the clay, and to get rid of the rock. And when they dug on down at other places that didn't have rock and put the rock in, crushed it in, rolled it in, and come back with clay over top of it. So when they cut that for that building pad that you see there, that was actually about 8 foot deeper than what you see there now, because they went down. They had to go down 4 foot below the rock, and then they build back up. So there's no concrete touching any of the bedrock out there at all. So they went down 8 feet, and then they built it back up and rolled it in. It's solid.
So right now, you're not expecting any change orders come in at the moment or anything?
At this point, I don't know of any.
Okay, good.
And I will tell you that something that we've talked about, and want to talk with the architects some more, and it would be something that you could consider. We'd always wanted to put a separate bus loop in back there, so the buses, when they come in behind Strode, could miss the traffic as much as possible. And we've looked at several different locations of that, and I think I've figured out a place that we can use the road, the entry road to the preschool, and just come off of it and make that same loop. It'll probably cost you thousands and thousands of dollars less than it was what we anticipated it would. But that's something we'll talk about as we go further.
Yeah.
That would be a little bit of a change order, but it would be very minimal compared to putting that lane in. We talked about it for years.
And
Yeah.
everything else there.
Any other questions? I will. Keen's gone. I'll give you my phone number. My phone, 859-595-4858. I don't take his calls, but I'll take any of yours. Anytime you want to give me a call and you want to come out to the site, just give me a call. Let me know ahead of time, and I'll make sure there's a couple of hard hats out there for you, and I'll be glad to take you on a tour. Hopefully next week you're going to start seeing concrete shooting up out of the ground.
Oh, wow, that'd
In the
be
next week or
exciting.
two.
Yeah.
Every time I go to Baker, I like peek over there and look. It's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, that's exciting
It's
stuff.
gonna be fun.
Yep.
Thank you for
All right,
your.
thank you.
Can you come back next quarter and give us an update? Not every month, but maybe every 3 months or so?
I live pretty close to you.
Yeah, I know.
No problem.
Yeah, I think it'd be good, maybe every 3 months, something like that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Christie.
Get my glasses here, sorry. Next is consider approval of updates to the one-to-one Chrome project student agreement terms document. Mr. Casey.
This should be fairly brief. Every year since we started with the one-to-one Chromebook initiative, we've done a student Chromebook agreement, and things generally don't change very much. Just some, same as the case here, some just changes in semantics and grammar, with the exception of 2 things that aren't new really, but I did want to point out on page 2, the heading Chromebook instructional fees. That's not new news, that's what you all voted on a month ago, but I just wanted to point out that it's written now into the student Chromebook agreement that students will sign. Once again, that was every K through 8 student will pay a $5 instructional fee. Every high school student will pay a $10 instructional fee. And the other thing worth pointing out is I completely removed page 4 of the Chromebook agreement. It was the page where it was a list of kind of do's and don'ts as far as students using local businesses and churches and organizations. I don't think that really happens anymore. We only have 22 students this year in our virtual academy, and I don't think any of them go and sit outside the McDonald's and use their Wi-Fi. I think they pretty much have their internet covered, so I felt like that was overkill to keep that in there. So, but everything else is just really kind of minor grammar stuff. So all I'm asking is just approval of these updates.
Any questions? Make a motion to approve. Have a second?
Second.
Have a second, all in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is acknowledge and consider approval of athletic trainer bids for the physical therapy and athletic services for both the George Rogers Clark and Robert D. Campbell sports programs. Mr. Watkins.
I want to say first, I really enjoyed getting to blast the dynamite out there at the preschool. I'm still excited about that. I got to shoot, to basically do the blast.
By the way, came out the day after the blast.
I got to shoot the blast one day, and it was pretty fun. So I did help build the preschool. So you all should have there the 3 proposals from the athletic trainer. You've got UK 1 or 2, 25,000 for 1, 50,000 for 2. Resilience 25,000 for 1, 70,000 for 2, and then Dreyer only gave us a 2 trainer proposal starting at 68 and some change and progressing all the way up to 79 and some change. So over a 5-year period.
So I'll make a comment. And I've shared this with Mr. Watkins and Mr. Howard, and I've talked to several people close and in the physical therapy program here locally. And one of the things that came to my attention was right now we have a full-time and then we have 1 PRN. That PRN just goes to games. They don't do any really follow-up other than makes a referral over to our existing athletic trainer, and then the athletic trainer has to start, like, not from scratch, but, pretty much from the beginning and develop a plan for that athlete. That's a lot of lost time, a lot of lost efficiencies, in my opinion, where if you had 2 full-time trainers, both of those, if they're there at the game or even at practice, kid gets hurt, they can sit down with that kid and their parents at that time, schedule a plan before they leave that event, whatever that event is, instead of waiting maybe even a day or 2 before they have a plan put together for that kid, for that athlete. With that said, I know we pay the PRN or we spent on the PRN, about $12,000 less than the 25, so around
Yeah.
13,000.
Yeah, it was almost 14,000.
Almost 14. So we're looking at, say, $11,000 more to have two full-time athletic trainers. I feel like that would be a much better situation for our kids. We're growing sports. We didn't even have a wrestling program a few years ago, okay? That's doing awfully well. We're having, I know more sports are looking at.
Yeah, KHSA just approved a couple more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I'll just put before the board, I believe we need to. And with that said, I'll open it up to discussions between the three bids.
And I think, what all you just said, plus if they do need follow-up and they're at UK, then they can get referred back into the family's choice of if they need ongoing physical therapy, occupational therapy, they can get it locally after the initial. But I think that after reading through it, all those things make sense, the costs make sense. We want to take care of our athletes. Make sure they have what they need, and it includes all of the different sports when you look at the contract. So,
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I didn't mention that. We've, in the UK proposal, the physical therapist will have the ability to work with families to determine where to refer physical therapy if need be, if maybe that athlete or family can't make it to Lexington and they want to do it locally. That's in that proposal, they can do that.
and I did reach out to UK and ask them about that, and they said, that they definitely would work with, players' parents to refer them somewhere local, so they didn't have to drive to UK and Lexington for a 30-minute treatment on something if they could do that here with a local provider.
Bill, I may have to disqualify myself since I have a relationship with one of these contractors.
You have what?
A relationship with
Oh,
them.
okay.
So I don't want to,
Okay.
yeah, just for sake I can leave during the vote. And you guys here.
Does he need to leave or just sustain?
I think you can
Abstain, I'm sorry.
disqualify if you feel like it's a conflict, but abstain.
Oh, I don't, I'll just abstain. for the
Okay.
vote. That way,
Okay.
all above board.
Well, any other comments, questions? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the UK proposal for 2 physical therapists for GRC. Let me start over. I will make a motion to approve the UK proposal for both George Rogers Park and Robert D. Campbell sports programs, which would be 2 full-time physical therapists. Do I have a second?
I'll second. With a note, would we need to include, I guess, with that proposal, it's gonna include like what you spoke about as far as them possibly referring to other local businesses or local, providers to, remit or remediate certain expenses if they have to go to possibly UK. Yeah, if it's not in the wording of the contract or the proposal, then would it need to be changed? Or would that just be something that we would take them,
There's no requirement in there to go to their providers
Okay.
in the proposal.
That's
It
it.
is.
Yeah, that answers my question.
Even if, now what they would like is if there was a severe injury and there had to be surgery, they would like for us to work, but even at that point, they can't
Still.
require us to go to UK. If you want to go Central Baptist and have surgery,
Yeah,
it's,
so it's still the family's choice.
it is the family's choice, yes, sir.
Yeah, so I would stand by my second, yeah.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We have passes 3-0 with 1 board member abstaining. Is that the correct thing to do?
Disqualify.
Or just disqualify?
I think if he has a conflict, it should be disqualification,
So,
so he's not.
okay, so let's make,
Yeah.
let's just say that we have board member disqualified. So. Okay. Next item, Consider acknowledgement of state mandated safe school audit process and legislation. Mr. Watkins.
All right, so I've asked Mr. Tim Haslett to come kind of give a short presentation to the board tonight and talk to you all about the Safe Schools audit process. And our state school safety marshal, Ben Wilcox, and Ben's actually from Madison County. I've known him for a long time. He was a former school resource officer, so he's not just a law enforcement guy that doesn't know what it's like to be in schools. He understands that aspect of it also. Mr. Haslett is a compliance officer with Mr. Wilcox's state school safety marshal's office, and they go around to schools and look for compliance things, and he's going to talk to you all about that. And obviously school safety is a huge thing for us here in Clark County, and something that is very, very important. We've talked about that, I know, right from the beginning of Mr. Howard's superintendency, and early on we had our principals out to the Emergency Operations Center and had a meeting and talked with them specifically about school safety items, and that is something that I know the board is a high priority for you all. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Haslett and let him just kind of talk to you generally about the process.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins, and Superintendent Howard, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. And if it'll help my credibility any, I'm an alumni of Johnson Central High School, so since y'all went over there and visited them stuff, that's pretty phenomenal. I'm proud of that high school and what they have accomplished. Our office was created 4 years ago in 2019 as a result of Senate Bill 1. That was a comprehensive School Safety and Resiliency Act that was passed by the legislature and signed into law by the governor. And essentially, it built on previous laws that had been enacted going back to 1998 when House Bill 330 was passed and created the Center for School Safety. And that was on the heels of the Heath High School shooting in Paducah, then Columbine after that, and then the whole list that had accumulated up to that point. The difference in 2019 was it put some specific requirements for schools to adhere to, and then also put in there the incentives to comply with those, mainly in the terms of funding restrictions and so on. So we were, our office was created. We all started to work in December of 2019. There's 12 of us that do, I'm one of 12. We have the state divided up into regions, and I cover 10 counties and 118 schools. So Clark County being one of them, and I'm thankful to get to work in Eastern Kentucky, where I don't have to have an interpreter to go with me, help me understand. I made contact with Mr. Howard when I first met. He was principal at the junior high, and I always try to make that commonality contact with people from the mountains, and I find them everywhere I go. So that's a testament to our Appalachian region. So what we do is, I've supplied with you to Mr. Stump and Mr. Watkins. This is the work form that I distribute to all the schools prior to my visit. And we're not in the business to try to catch anybody doing anything wrong. We're in the business of two things. I bring two things to the table when I show up to a school. I'm a fresh set of eyes, and hopefully my presence reinforces what the administrators asked the staff to do in terms of the safety. This has been a learning process for everybody, and it continues to be. They don't teach this in teacher education school. We wish they did, because people coming out of college, this is kind of a foreign thing to them. And then you think about, how do you define security? Well, the simplest definition that I know of, security equals inconvenience. So the more inconvenience you have, the better secured you are. And that sometimes is a fine line to try to walk. But there's 3 sections of this form that we do in this risk assessment. The first section has 11 standards in it. Those are the compliance standards that tie back to the funding issues that are built into the law We don't administer that. All we do is report what we find. Other entities are responsible for determining any action that goes along with any non-compliance issues. So those 11 things deal with access control and security within the buildings. So the buildings have to be equipped with cameras, intercoms, electronic locking doors, and exterior access control. Inside the building, then there's a visitor sign-in procedure that's employed in differing formats depending on the school and what they've decided to establish on their own. We don't tell you what to do. We just tell you this is the law that says this is what you need to do. We check it. So, and then all classroom doors have to be closed and locked during instructional time. And instructional time is a pivotal language in all of this. And you know, I think I can speak for our whole group. We try to apply this in the spirit and common sense thing as the best we can. But if there's a group of children in a classroom, then that classroom has to be closed and locked. And so the two building, or the two classes in the school building that creates the most angst for is the library and the gymnasium, because of what they're designed to be and the way they're constructed. And of course, this law is 4 years old. We've got school buildings that are 60 years old. So they were not designed, with this in mind. In fact, I'm hoping that the new schools, that the architects will get on board with us, so we, design incorporates a lot of these things, and it reduces the challenges that school administrators and school boards face. So those 11 things, we check those. And then the second section is a requirement. All those things are required by law, and this form makes reference to all those statutory. It's anchored back to the statute, what the statute says. So section 2 is required, but it's not a compliance issue from a funding perspective. Still required, but it's contingent upon funding and availability of resources, like school resource officers. Because that's not an issue for you all. You all have your own police department, and they're very good folks. They do a good job, very well qualified. They're very organized, very structured, very professional. You all are the exception to the rule when it comes to that. Very few schools, they not only do they not have their own police department, they can't find anybody to hire. There's a shortage of school resource officers in some of the more rural counties. So the things in section 1 don't cost a lot of money, other than maybe some hardware issues, but section 2, deals with personnel costs and some other things. So like mental health providers and those sort of things that are referenced in there. And then section 3 is it's just an accumulation of information that we become a clearinghouse, and we'll have school districts from across the state call us and say, is there anyone doing a certain thing? And if we know that they are, then we'll just refer them to that group. We don't promote products or vendors or anything like that. If a school in Clark County is doing something pretty unique and somebody asks about that particular thing, then we'll give them the contact information for Clark County Schools, and they can do their own research and talk to you folks or whoever does it. So that's what we do. We do an inspection once a year. The Clark County Schools do a really good job. They've embraced this. The administrators do a good job in promoting this. And I think probably the biggest challenge has been, for any school, has been probably the increased need for substitutes. And so substitutes may not be as clued into this as full-time faculty are. And then it's just given things, and I'm not trying to be facetious here, but things as simple as just giving the substitute the key so they can lock the door. Those things, and that's not Clark County thing, I'm just saying that's just a generality, that some of the things that are challenging in some of this. So that's, they said that I had about 4 minutes, and I was afraid they'd start passing out hymn books and singing me down, so I'll just go ahead and quit now, and I'll take whatever questions that you may have.
So after you do an audit,
I'm sorry, sir.
after you do an audit, who you take that audit and report it to who?
Okay. That's a good question, sir. Thank you. When we complete our report, we send it to our office, which is in Richmond. Our supervisors check it, and then when it's approved, that report comes back to the school district's school safety coordinator. That's the only person we can release that to. So in this district, Mr. Stump is the school safety coordinator by designation. At the end of the school year, Marshall Wilcox will compile a cumulative report, and it goes to 3 different entities. It goes to the Center for School Safety, Department of Education, and the Legislative Research Commission. Now, what it's used for and all that, that's I can't speak to that, but that's the distribution of the overall results of what we do.
Okay. Is there any part of the report that funding is based off of? Any sort of funding that a district may receive?
Well, I don't know about receiving, but in section 1, the first 11 standards deal with access control, and you know, if any one of those is responded to as a no, if they're not being done, and it's not corrected within the school year, then the statute says the Department of Education can withhold construction funds until that's corrected.
Okay.
Now, to tell you that I can give you an example of that happening, I don't know, but this is still new. Actually, that piece of the legislation only went into effect July 2022, so it's just been less than a year. There was a 3-year grace period, trying to get everybody acclimated to this. And so, I don't know, what the probability of that enforcement is. I can't speak to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the overview. I think I love knowing, what we're responsible for.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Next item is consider approval of summer work project list. Mr. Watkins.
All right, so you all have the proposal for the summer work project list, and we tried to trim that down based on what you've had the past several years to be basically a list of things that we're asking you to approve for funding purposes. There are other things that we're doing this summer. There are some things the schools themselves are funding. There's a couple things we're actually using some of our Safe Schools money on that we get to repair and to install. But this list is just what we're asking you all to cover out of the general fund.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to make a comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. In years past, I know we've got some new, first-year board members in, but in years past, this has been presented to the board for the summer list, and I remember one year it took like 2 hours to get through.
Oh, wow.
Because we went through line item by line item, line item. Okay? I think y'all have done a wonderful job to condense this to the point where we can absorb it, I guess is the best way to say it, and not have a wish list on here instead of having a list that is really required. So other than that, that's all I wanted to comment on.
Yeah, and I agree. Mr. Talby, it was easy to look at and to see. Well, this is what needs to be worked on. My question, Mr. Watkins, is with Campbell. I go in there quite a bit, and for my full-time job. And one of the things I've noticed that I do not work for the school system. I guess I should work for an agency that goes in there, but. For most of the spring, it seems like there was something going on in the foyer, like it was leaking. Is that coming out of a different fund? Or
It's coming out of a different fund. We've got some committed money that's already been set aside for roof repair.
Oh, great.
And that's coming out of that money.
Okay.
And we've already started working on it.
That's wonderful, because it's really terrible to walk in and see that. And had talked to Mr. Kincaid about it, and he said he'd been addressing it. I just wanted to make sure that school is, it's been around a very long time. I mean, if you think about the age of our schools, and that was built in the late 60s, I believe. It was old when I was there, so, and 30 years ago, so,
And it's got some roof issues.
yeah, I can just imagine. So, but I do appreciate you all working through these, and all these seem appropriate. Now, the Aux gym, is that the secondary gym
That's
in the
correct.
GRC?
That's
Okay.
correct. Yep.
Any questions, any additional questions or comments?
I mean, it seems very reasonable to me. Mr. Talby, do you agree that it seems reasonable?
Yes, especially after years past and of what the board has approved and went through. I think they've done a great job of condensing the summer project down to, first of all, what's obtainable to do during the summer, and second, address the major issues right now.
Okay, that's great.
If there's no other questions or consideration, I'll make a motion to approve the summer work project list.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hall, in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to take 2 seconds to thank you all for, a lot of things tonight you've heard from MTSS to instruction to BAR to Mr. Hazlitt with Safe School. It's all about our student safety and meeting the needs of our kids. And I just want to thank you all, commend you for that. It's a great day to be a Cardinal. Isn't that right, Mr. Howard?
Go Cardinals.
Nice setup.
Softball's over with it.
Yeah, it was like softball. All right. Next item is acknowledgement of Partners in Education update and consider request for a 2023 Good Living Challenge donation. Mr. Greg Yates.
Well, by way of introduction, before I start, I wanted, because a couple of board members, I don't know you, and I don't think you know me, I will say that I've lived here for 18 years. I've been the Partners in Education Director for 9. My son's a proud graduate of 2021 from GRC, and my daughter will graduate in 3 or 4 days, whatever we're at now. And oh, by the way, the dynamite is a real thing, because it'll wake you up from a nap if you live where I live, which is not too far from it, so it is real. I'm very proud that I have a board. I want to give you a little background before I give you this piece of paper, but I'm very fortunate to have a board that supports me, and I've got actually 5 members here tonight. Mr. Watkins, he's your central office representative. Ms. Hall represents you. Cora Hefner, she's a lifelong member of our board. She helped start the program. Co Sockers, who's my outgoing chairman, and Kim Hogan, my incoming chairman. So I appreciate them being here tonight. And I didn't make a deadline, I guess, to get this handout to y'all, so I just have to give it to Beth and let y'all pass it around, I guess, if it's okay.
That's fine.
And I want to give you a brief history of Partners in Education before I get to asking you for money like I've been doing, which, by the way, I'll let you know that y'all have provided funds to us ever since I've been doing it, since 2014. 2003, before I even lived here, 60 community leaders got together to address the high dropout rate in our school system, which at that time was like 9.5%. From that, Partners in Education was formed. 2006, the first partner, which I believe was Central Bank, started, as well as having the first director. From 2006 to 2011, PI was actually part of the Clark County Public School System. It fell under community education as far as funding went. 2012, the powers that be decided they need to make it a nonprofit, a 501c3. 2014, the late Betty Behrman retired at the ripe age of 85, I think then, as the director, and then I was hired as the executive director. My first year, we had 8 business partners and 48 volunteers. 2019 is when we peaked at 26 partners and 168 volunteers. And if it had not been for that next line, 2021 COVID, I think we could have stayed there. But it obviously just shut us down. We met, you can ask them, we met still regularly, tried every way in the world to think of ways to do virtual, just never could get everything to work out. It was like everybody else reacting. And so it is what it is. And then we started rebuilding in 2022, which if you go into the next page of the information I got there for you, the slide or the comparison, this is something I have provided to the board. Last time I briefed in person, I hate to admit it, was like 5 years ago. It started becoming something we just did during the consent agenda for a few years, COVID. So me and Mr. Howard we had our pie breakfast 6 weeks ago, and I said, hey, why don't I come back in person? He said, we'll do that this summer. This summer turned into tonight, but that's okay. So I want to give you an idea of where we was at last year and how we're already making some progression in the right way to this year, although not all these numbers will reflect that. The very first one is partners. We've lost 3 partners. I'll tell you who they are, and all 3 of them are because of COVID. Neely and Wade Insurance, First Presbyterian Church, and Members Heritage Credit Union. As an example, Neely and Wade, now he was a small firm anyways, but he said now all of his staff works remotely. That's become the thing now, you know. We're not going back like a lot of people did. So those 3 partners just had to fall out of our being. I will say that I had a meeting 1 or 2 weeks ago with a new business. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but they agreed to be a new partner. So that number is going to go up by 1 starting in the new school year. And I've got 1 or 2 more that I'm working on. Hopefully we'll get them by the fall. Our number of volunteers has gone the right way from 25 up to 51 this year, which obviously makes our volunteer hours double. And we had 759 volunteer hours this year. The volunteer value, it's a little skewed because if you look at last year, it was a volunteer hours that was valued at $24.83 an hour. This year, because of inflation, it's now like $31.80 an hour. But still, having more hours, that number obviously has gone up by like 3-fold. Now this next line is probably the best part, partner donations to school. When I meet with a business, I never once ask them to make a donation to a school. I talk to them about putting men and women in seats, like Ms. Hall. She's been one of my volunteers. That's what our program is all about. If they can do the donations or want to, that's great, and most of them do. So this year, our partners gave $29,850 back to the schools in what I would call unsolicited funds. So if you look at the total for last year's investment of $10,000 that you gave to us, you got back almost $54,000. So a little over $5 for every one. So I think that's a pretty good return on your investment. We've got now 9 corporate sponsors. We added 2 this year. DSM Nutritional has been added, as well as a Fugit Law Firm. Though you can see there what we raised during the Good Giving Challenge. And the other thing I'm really proud about, and if you do not know what it is, I'll explain it briefly, and that's BUG, which stands for Bringing Up Grades. I'm also the president of the Winchester Kiwanis Club. Bringing Up Grades is a Kiwanis International sponsored program. The PI and the Kiwanis Club have always worked together. And basically, 3rd grade is the first year a student gets a letter grade. So I'll go in at the midterm and explain to the 3rd grade students in 3 of our schools, we want you to work on your grades, and if you raise an English grade by a letter grade, I'm gonna come back in at the end of the 9 weeks and give you this little dog tag. We have a regular bug, and we have reading bug. We really emphasize reading, because that's obviously really important. And then we have super bugs for people like Dustin who are straight A students and they're willing to help their classmates. They get a super bug award. So we've been doing that now for I don't know how many years. I mean, I think Betty started it way before my time. Kiwanis International, our Kiwanis Club, is proud to sponsor that as well. They pay for all of it. I just help administer it. Me and some of the Kiwanians do that. And it's a really great program, and it helps those students, and it really helps me when I go to Walmart and the kid comes up and goes, "You're the bug guy." I love it. Another program that I really was proud of that I wanted to mention was the Be a Man mentoring program in, don't quote me on this, 2017, I think it was. Miss Brenda Considine was the assistant superintendent, and I was in an admin meeting, and she threw out a figure that was like 65% of the students in our system here in Clark County from grades K through 8 live with someone other than a parent. And that really hit me. And about that time, Fayette County had started something like this, so Scott Heisel read it in the paper. He was the chair of my board, and on your board, we plagiarized the heck out of it, but we come up with Be a Man. So we have 6 men that meet. The whole premise is, for example, let's say Coach here is one of my weekly volunteers. I should back up. Our whole program is based on Dora Hall. She's a volunteer right now. So from the beginning of October So about the end of April, when testing starts, she'll go to a school 1 hour a week and sit down with one or sometimes two or three, in her case, little girls or little boys, and do mentoring. What we challenged the men for, and I'll use Mr. Leverage, he was the president of Central Bank at the time when I spoke to the chamber banquet that year. And there's not a man who was listening to me that night that can tell me they can't give up 1 hour a month. Not 1 hour a week, 1 hour a month. And that's where we come up with BAM. So at Baker and at the preschool, we have 6 men at each one of those schools. Coast is one of them that does the preschool, that they meet with a group of boys 1 hour a month. It started out the first year as a reading program, the next year the preschool wanted to change it, and that's fine. They're the educators, I'm not. I just provide the men. And the one at Baker has worked out real well. They just go in there and talk to them about life's lessons, I guess you could say. Then 2 years ago, Mr. Howard was still the principal, and then we started one at Campbell. A little bit different. We have, like this year I had 10 different men that came in just only one time for that person, but about twice every 2 weeks, and they just come in and talk to them about their life story. And it was amazing. We didn't screen them in ahead of time, but every one of them, probably all of us, have a checkered lifestyle, but it was really good to see men just open up to 50 boys that the school handpicked and talk to them about their life lessons. And now my offices are in Campbell, but I'm not there every day. When I walk down the hall and I have a boy student want to fist bump me, I know we're getting through. I know it's working. And then the last program is Bucks for Books. Bucks for Books. That's something we started a few years ago. We started out with the United Way grant. Then we self-funded it for a couple of years. I was very fortunate this year to get a grant from the Steel Reef Foundation. So those numbers are a little skewed because in '22 we self-funded it at $3,000. This year we had $5,000 from Steel Reef, so obviously more money. But the gist of it is, we know there are students from at-risk homes that can't afford to get a book when their scholastic book fair is at their school. So we go in and present a check to the 4 elementary schools and the Baker in the fall, and they usually the FRC, people like Eva, would make a voucher so the student is not embarrassed in any way, but they get a free book during that book fair. So that's the number of books that our students that have gotten a free book as a result of our Bucks for Books program. And hopefully I'm supposed to get the Steel Reef Foundation grant again this next year. And then after that, my board, I feel confident we will keep self-funding it at whatever we can afford to do. So that's my very quick and down and dirty presentation. And I guess, I don't know if you're approving it tonight or when you do your budget meeting next week, but I'm requesting that you approve the same donation level of $10,000 to Partners in Education be made during the Good Giving Challenge, which will be in December.
That's on the agenda for consideration tonight, so.
Okay.
But thank you for coming. I appreciate you coming and come every year, so, or whatever, however often you want to.
Okay.
So thank you. And I know you probably would like to say something. I'd love to hear your experience with it.
So this past year I had 4 fifth graders and 4 young ladies, and we did all kinds of things. We made bracelets. I would bring them some treats, and I always felt bad because they were going to math afterwards. So I figured they were already bouncing off the walls, so they were really bouncing off the walls. But it's really interesting when you just sit and chat with them. I'm a trained therapist. I'm a clinical social worker. And so, but in this case, it's just sitting and listening to them and tell their story. And I loved going. It's my favorite part of the week when I do go. So of course, I work with Baker. I work with Miss Davis. I always get her name wrong. Miss Davis, and she picks out children. There's so many of them that need that. So, and there's often other mentors there. So I started, I believe, 2018-ish, 19-ish, and I really have enjoyed it. Of course, COVID, it was hard to do anything, and then Greg was very persistent for a few months to make me come back, and so I did. Finally came back. I wanted to come back. It's just getting back into it, but I think now this next year we'll be able, I think this next school year would be a lot better. But I would say, in the breakfast that we had was very nice. We had a lot of partners there, a lot of people just, it's a wonderful program.
And I'd like to say all the businesses I have recruited over the 9 years, I've never done it by just walking up to so-and-so's business and knock on the door. It's been from going to we're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and going to these breakfast and after hours and just the small talk, or going to the banquet. I remember Neely and Wade, one year he finally calls me up, hey, I want to come talk to you about pie. I'm like, what made you decide to do this? He said, I got tired of listening to you give out an award every year to Chamber of Banquet. I want to get involved. My point is, with COVID, you couldn't do that. We didn't have none of that. So now I'm having to make myself even get back out there and go to some of these breakfasts and go to these things and just get to meet people, the small talk, if you will, and get the word out. But I mean, our pie breakfast, I had literally 2 businesses come up to me and said, I want to talk to you about this. So I think we're going to eventually, my goal is to get back to the 170 volunteers. It might take us a few years to get there, but that's my goal.
And the kids tend to miss, like at the Baker, they're missing some type of class that's like a special class. It's not core classes or anything like that, but they look forward to it and they look for you and they see and they it's more one-on-one and it's a beautiful thing. So
I believe at the elementary schools, you'll find, at least a few times I've visited, it's more where the mentor will actually go into the classroom. I've seen them like, it's reading time, well, the teacher's got 20 kids, well, then Miss Smith here from Central Bank just sits over here and starts reading to 3 or 4 kids, whereas at your grade and even at Campbell, they're pulling them from something, but I think it's well worth the 45 minutes an hour they're getting pulled. Some of them at Campbell, it's like during lunch. I've seen the people from Catalent bring lunch and sit there and eat lunch with them in the room that Mr. Kugel created there at the FRC for them. Any other questions?
No, thank you. I know it's a great program. Any other comments? I'll make a motion to allocate $10,000 to partner education for the fiscal year 2024. I'll
Second.
Dorsey, I think got you. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Gates.
Thank you for being here tonight.
And thank you, fellow board members, for coming.
Next up is Finance and Human Resources Update, acknowledgement of monthly Clark County Public Schools financial update. Dr. Tammy Perry?
Alicia's out.
Okay.
Her and her children are a little under the weather, so I'm going to try to do both of these for you all. So the finance update. Pulling it up. If not, I can wing it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so she wanted me to share that our total collections are 2% from where they were this time last year, so that was a big celebration she wanted to share, and that our tax collections are over 100%, which is the next slide. Our total expenditures are 1% higher than they were this time last year, which she said that's to be expected with the innovations and the changes that are currently in process. So that's those 2 slides. So pay schedules and extra service we'll address during the recruitment and retention piece of HR, all of those as well. And then she asked me to ask you to request that you pay the bills.
I make a motion that we pay whatever bills we need to pay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. So the next item is consider approval of 2023-2024 pay schedules and extra service, including a 2% raise for certified staff.
Yes. So as a reminder, the new classified tables reflect the wage study and analyses that took place over the last year and a half for classified staff. So tonight, she would like to propose a 2% raise for 187-day pay schedule that positively will impact all of our certified staff. Also included in this pay update is the change to the responsibility pay factor pay schedule. That's a mouthful. And all of these have been built into the tables, and she said that they're also going to be presented before you all at the budget on May 30th. So
And just so that if they're watching on the video, certified staff are our teachers.
Yes.
Does it include like instructional assistant? Is that a different?
The IAs were included in the classified wage
Yes.
study. So anyone who holds a certified position or a position that requires a 4-year degree. So we have several of those as well.
Well, if Ms. Ellis was here, I would praise her and her staff for keeping our budget into a point where we can do, that we can consider the 2% raise. And want to thank her and everyone that's, just everybody here in central office. I mean, really, so thank you all.
I make a motion to approve the pay schedules for 2023-24 and the extra services, including a 2% raise for certified staff.
With one little more piece to cover.
With one more piece to cover from Dr. Parrish.
So the extra services, so the pay schedules was the first piece, the extra services. So we've condensed all of the instructional stipends now to a catalog. So all the schools will receive a lump sum amount of money and a catalog to allocate the extra services to. So that's also included in the package. Athletics changed a little bit. So what changed for athletic services, we've added a wrestling position at RDC. So we've now requested a coaching position to be added at RDC. And then there's also a tournament percentage extra services schedule. So basically, I think it's a couple more slides. If teams and coaches make it to like district semifinals, regional semifinals, state quarterfinals, state semifinals, and championship games, it's really small, but there's a percentage out to the side. They'll receive an extra stipend percentage. So it goes anywhere from 10%, 20%, up to 50% stipends. So, and she said to add that if every team in Clark County for GRC won the state tournament or the highest competition total, it would add a $76,000 total to the overall budget. But every team would have to win.
That would
The very top. Right. Well, and
that would be great if that.
Absolutely, and we have such great. I mean, it's been an awesome year for that. So we've had multiple teams win things. So yeah. Was there anything else in the?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
You still have to make that
Yes.
motion? Okay, we have a motion on the table by Ms. Hall. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Dorsey. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. All right, next is staff retention and recruitment. Consider approval of policy revisions 03.1232 and 03.22. Pardon me. 2232, need that, put my glasses on. Adding one sick leave day to each record, revising the verbiage related to using sick leave as emergency leave as stated in KRS 161.152.
So we're really focusing hard on becoming an employee-friendly district, and taking away some of the over-policizing of employees starts here. So we would like to request to add an extra sick leave day to every schedule. So originally, if you were getting 10 days, you would get 11 days, 12 days, 13 days. Well, I'm sorry, 10 days, 11, 11, 12, and 12, 13. And then we also want to add the verbiage down here at the bottom, as this is actually part of the state law, but we've never had it in our policy before. So employees may use 3 sick days as emergency leave, which will be important for the next policy that I'm getting ready to present to you. So if staff used up all of their emergency leave and they still needed use of leave, they can actually use sick leave by adding the verbiage to our policy. And as far as I know, and I've done lots of research on this, we are now the only district in the state of Kentucky to give out this many sick days. So our hopes is that it will be a recruitment and retention piece to say, you bank these days, this is going to help you, further your retirement with Clark County.
Any questions or comments? Have a motion on the table? Anybody would like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move to approve.
Make a motion by Mr. Bennett.
Maybe to approve the first reading.
Yes, we'll have to have 2 readings.
Yep. I'll second that one. All in favor? Aye. Passes 4-0.
I'm here now.
Passes 5-0. Sorry. I just got to have the same 4 zeros. All right. Consider approval of 03.1236, 03.2236 revised verbiage for emergency and sick leave.
So this is our emergency leave, and this policy really restricts employee use because it has to be approved by the superintendent or the superintendent's designee, and then we have to make a determination as to whether that's an extraordinary circumstance. So, with lots of consultation, I would like to revise this policy. Instead of being emergency leave where they have to meet extraordinary circumstances for approval, that we move it to a personal hardship. So everyone will be responsible for determining whether their situation is a personal hardship, not me or Mr. Howard or the principal. So it really opens up the ability for the employee to say, well, my dog died. That's like a family member to me, and me to be like, well, that's not in policy. So I'm sorry, it's your child to you. But so this would free up 3 emergency days to be used for mental health even, if the employee felt like that was a personal hardship for them. And then we also wanted to add the verbiage about if they used all 3 of their, what we're still going to call emergency days, but personal hardship days, they can still use 3 sick days for emergencies.
And this will require two.
Yes, it would
as well.
as well.
Okay. Any comments? Motion?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Dorsey, second by Ms. Ritchie. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next, consider approval of employee recruitment and retention strategy, health and wellness initiative. All employees will have access to CrossFit Strode Station equipment and trainers for 2023-24.
So CrossFit Strode Station has new owners. So Mr. Watkins has established a great partnership with them. CrossFit Strode Station is a 6,600 square foot training facility out in close to Rockwell. The bingo hall is a good reference to where it's at. The company is going to offer showers and getting ready spaces for our employees, so every employee will have the opportunity to have an experienced and trained coach for classes that start at 5 a.m. all the way till 6 p.m. And it's free to all of our staff, so this partnership would be free for the employee, but they're also going to partner with us and allow your friends and family to come. So your friends and family could join, depending on how many friends and family you sign up, you would get between a 30 and a 40% off discount of their unlimited membership. So they're also willing to offer us Saturday classes, and he said however many people decide to enroll, they'll offer additional courses and groups and even specified groups. So
That's awesome.
Oh, and they also have their own physical therapist there. So if you have doctor's order to receive some sort of athletic physical therapy, they accept major insurance and have offered to provide those services to our employees as well.
So there's 2 proposals, proposal 1, proposal 2 in the packet. We're talking really about proposal 1, correct?
Yes, proposal 2, I think, is a continuation of a contract that they already have with the school district for Phoenix Academy students.
Okay.
So they're basically just requesting to continue that contract.
But if we did proposal
So
1,
it's in tandem.
proposal 2 is not even, we don't need proposal 2, correct?
No,
Or is
they're
it
in
in
tandem.
tandem?
I think it's in tandem, is the way I understood it. It was $10,000 that is already paid. Do you know, Mr. Watkins, if that comes out of a Phoenix budget?
Yeah, I think we just
Okay.
set a funding for that. We're not, you're not asking the board to approve that.
No.
Okay. You're asking to approve proposal 1.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. I think it's a great thing. I think it's awesome. Hopefully, we have a lot of people take advantage of it, staff take advantage of it. I think it's a great retention program that we'll come up with.
Yeah, so some other districts are offering fitness centers. We're offering personal coaches in a fitness center. Just
All right.
saying.
Yeah. Any questions, comments? I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie, all in favor? Aye. Pass 5-0. Okay, next one. Consider approval for revisions to level up round 2.
Okay, so this is for our classified staff, for opportunities for them to continue to increase their competency skills, but also to get pay raises along the way. Everything that's highlighted in yellow is new to the schedule. So With the district acknowledging our need for additional bilingual employees, you can see there on the first page that we're willing to offer 10 levels for bilingual proficiency, which is a national certification for not only bilingual opportunities, but also for American Translator Association opportunities. I won't go through every one of them, but we're pretty excited for all of our staff. And I appreciate the collaboration between directors and supervisors. Even Mr. Jordan up at the bus garage for his mechanics, he got really involved in making sure that his employees had opportunities as well. And like I said, this will continue to evolve. Hopefully it won't be too many more things, but there's a couple more groups and things that we want to target to give all of our employees an opportunity for advancement.
Any questions, comments? Have a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Ms. Ritchie. Have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Hall, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you all so much.
Next is internal board business. Consider approval of authorization of superintendent to take all necessary steps to support the council for better education and its legal challenge to the unconstitutionality of House Bill 9 with the payment of appropriate dues in the amount of $4,817.15. Mr. Travel.
Sure. So several years ago when House Bill 9 passed, it's essentially a bill that says they wanted to take public school monies and give them to charter schools. Right now, there's a court fight on whether it's constitutional or not, because state monies, with the argument with our attorneys, should go to public schools. So every school district in Kentucky basically agreed to chip in when they needed financial support to continue that legal fight. There is I think in the packet, specific decree that this just authorized me. This was done last fall, so almost a year and a half ago. And it's come time that right now, I think, and Mr. Tobin and I kind of had a conversation, it's just for school districts larger than 7,500 that would be eligible. However, the conversations I've had is we're afraid it's a gateway to then lead to smaller and smaller districts. And frankly, we plan on growing this district to be larger. Right now, we're at about 5,500 students, so we're not far away from that as well. So I'd ask the board to make that motion to authorize me for payment to the appropriate amount.
Well, even though our district is not in that range yet, it's still taking Clark County taxpaying dollars, state level, and reallocating those to non-public schools.
Right.
And doing a little research on House Bill 9-2 charter schools, and a lot of people may be aware of it, may not be aware of it. They don't have to abide by the same policies and procedures that public schools do. So even though if a charter school did apply in this district, the Board of Education has to review those applications and approve them or deny them.
Right.
And that doesn't say, even though this bill is for 7,500, somebody could apply here in Clark County as well.
Correct.
A charter school could apply.
That's my understanding.
Yep. Any questions or comments? We could talk about this on that, by if not, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Bill? Mr. Bennett? Huh?
Bill.
Mr. Bennett, all right. Mr. Bennett, second. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Superintendent's report.
So I'm going to display brevity. Last day for students is Thursday. Graduation of the 2023 class of seniors is upon us this Friday, and I could not be more excited. It's 7 p.m. We do have an update. The was out there today. The stage that you all purchased previously is up. The plastic is down. Graduation practice has commenced the last 2 days. We're excited about sending our kids off to greatness. There will be a shuttle available starting at 4:30. If you want to park at Robert E. Campbell, you'll actually be shuttled in. We're also coordinating with the Winchester Police Department as well as the Sheriff's Department and our own police department to work on traffic and getting people in and out as quickly as you can. Now, I'm asking for patience and a little bit of grace because we're going to have 5,000 people that want to celebrate their student and then want to get out of there quickly. So, again, I think we have put together a pretty good plan. It may not be perfect, but I want people to be present because high school graduation happens one time, and it's all of our kids. So I would encourage people to stay from the very beginning to the end and watch kids walk out and high five the heck out of them. So I'm excited about it. And I'm just super focused on celebrating our kids.
Weather's supposed to be great too.
Knock on something.
Mid-70, right?
It's still, it's partly cloudy and 76.
Awesome.
At that time of the evening, it'll be about 73, so.
And the sun will be?
And it will also be on Facebook Live. So if you
Oh,
do have other people that want to watch that may not want to get into the traffic, they can still celebrate. Is it Facebook page or Facebook?
Facebook, whatever you want it to be.
It'll be streamed on something on the internet.
Face page for you.
There it is.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. On to consent agenda items. Is there any items under the consent agenda that anyone would like to discuss, pull off for discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent items.
Motion by Ms. Hall,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay. Next item is to consider adjournment to executive session to discuss property acquisition and discuss legal matters. I also been told I need to read this. Deliberations on future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency, but only when publicity would be likely to affect the value of a specific piece of property to be acquired for public use or sold by a public agency.
Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Yes, we do.
I'll
To
make that
closed
motion
session.
to adjourn to closed session, executive session.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you all.
I'm
With
going to
that
run
said,
to the
let's
back.
take a